Hey guys, we did the Lady Bit session over the weekend this week, so I have the opportunity to video on Wednesday for a change. You'll notice 3 days, three pieces of content, back in the saddle again, and I'm singing. I know some of you love that, some of you hate that. Too bad to those of you who hate it. Um, but I wanted to do just a little, like the title of the video says, morale boost video, because there's been some ickiness, for lack of a better term, of late surrounding the um, various summer blahs when it comes to gaming. There's no big games out, and so people get bored and they start picking fights, and there's been stuff. Notably, this article, you may have seen quite a few of these Steve Bannon World of Warcraft connection that's in a book. It's down at the bottom. I'm actually interested in reading it, The Devil's Bargain. It's not about Steve Bannon and World of Warcraft. It's about the connection between Steve Bannon and Donald Trump. But tech sites picked up this anecdote within the book and made something too much of it. It talks about the fact that Steve Bannon became interested in World of Warcraft and the kind of social cultural dynamics that the game revealed because he was part of this gold farming company back in the day. And they've tried. I don't know what the connection is. They tried to link this to Gamergate um by via Milo, when saying that you can activate that army. They come in through Gamergate or whatever and then get turned on to politics and Trump. Um, he said it, but as somebody who watched Gamergate unfold partially from the inside, that didn't happen. People's politics, people's way of viewing the world didn't radically change. So I don't think that Trump won the election because a bunch of internet nerds, half of which were not even in America, came in through Gamergate. It was more that people thought he was not necessarily the nicest human being, but he seemed to be the person most likely to get them a job. So they voted for him. I think at the end of the day, that's probably more it than anything. But if you want to get really conspiracy minded about this, just to show how data like this can be manipulated for the purposes of science, before people go running off and going, Gamergate, alt-right, see, worst harassers, you have to flail your arms like that to get that proper effect. Seriously, I am a professional. But if you want to be really conspiracy minded, you'll notice that Steve Bannon took over the gold farming company from a guy by the name of Brock Pierce. I just highlighted the name here. And who is Brock Pierce? They say a child actor who appeared in the Mighty Ducks films and, according to Internet Movie Database, was a consultant on an episode of HBO series Silicon Valley. I'm like, this sounds like a strange guy to be mining World of Warcraft gold. This is a pretty savvy dude. Well, no. There's something far more important about Brock Pierce that I think would be more relevant, but it ruins the narrative. So they didn't put it in. Here is Brock Pierce. As they said, he is a child actor, but he is the director of the Bitcoin Foundation, and this is when I said conspiracy minded. Pierce supports nonprofit and advocacy efforts as a member of the Clinton Global Initiative. What is Steve Bannon, the Clinton killer, doing business with someone who is directly involved in Clinton? If you need an example of how all this is about money and power, and politics is just a way into money and power, not so much the end game. It's not that money and power gives you political stuff. No, politics gets you the money and the power. That to me is a bigger connection. That there's all this tangled, all you political extremists out there, guess what? These guys are all backslapping and laughing at you behind their back. You are cogs in their very large machine. Get that straight. But this is tipped off for, I don't know if it's just coincidence or whether it's causal, a whole bunch of articles again about how gamers become terrorists and the right wing conspiracy within gaming. And it's all nonsense. The problem is that you try to tell these reporters it's nonsense and they don't listen to you. They go for sources with bigger names, but part of the reason they're bigger names is they're kind of car wrecks in terms of personalities. And if anybody stops to think about some of their statements, they contain elements that are easily questionable, we'll say. But these reporters don't care, and they're writing these stories so fast that they don't catch those obvious red flags. And so I wanted to remind people of something else that was studied in World of Warcraft, so we don't make this, direct connection to, oh, the troll army, World of Warcraft, very funny. They have a picture of a troll. I don't think that's even a freaking troll. Maybe it is. It's so murky, I can't really see that screen. And I haven't played World of Warcraft in ages. I'm way, way behind. But, yeah, before we make this direct connection to OMG, Warcraft gaming so bad. Okay, here's another thing that happened in World of Warcraft. Anybody remember the corrupted blood period in World of Warcraft? Where they actually got a write-up in the Lancet, apparently, Lancet Infectious Diseases, about a plot line, for lack of a better term, an event in World of Warcraft where people got this disease. And it showed researchers how people would respond in settings, because apparently in World of Warcraft, I remember this at the time, they behaved slightly more altruistically than people would in the real world, but for the most part, they behave the way people do behave in these contagions. And it's awesome for epidemiologists because it shows that they're limited in their observations. They have historical studies, but to see it unfold in real time is really great study without, as they say, actually, releasing a disease. And the fact that players had this just dropped on them, that they weren't prepared, because that would have framed them, here I come to save the day. No, that doesn't work as well. You actually need people going, WTF, what's going on? Like when SARS hit here, everybody was like, what? All these people are walking around in masks, and you're saying I could die if somebody breathes on me in a hospital. Awesome. It was scary for a while there. People didn't know if they could get it under control. Anybody that had a loved one in the hospital, it was tough. But yeah, I'm remembering that. Sorry, I got a little distracted, but this is very useful. And so that's the sort of context I feel is sort of lacking. And okay, this is a USA Today article. They're hardly long form, but I just kind of get frustrated in stories like this because it's looking at the issue through a pinhole. On the one hand, yes, the story is accurate. It just, you see this much of the picture instead of this much of the picture. And what should happen, what used to happen, is there'd be continuing reporting so people could follow this. But that's not what happens in the age of internet-driven clickbait. This thing drops, okay, the book's been publicized, hopefully you sold a lot of copies, moving on to the next bright, shiny object. So you don't get the response piece going, whoa, wait a minute. You're making it sound like World of Warcraft was just a recruitment tool for the worst harassers on the internet and the alt-right. Whereas World of Warcraft is a game that many people gleaned many useful things from. The epidemiology studies are one thing. I know a few couples who met on World of Warcraft, and they ended up getting married. So there are actually babies in this world because of World of Warcraft, and, you know, happiness and all that stuff. And we have to recognize this when we do an article about gaming, because they tend to be more than a little hysterical. And aren't those cute shoes on the ad? I'm very distracted by these sorts of cute shoes. But this is just, I admit, I read it. I was interested. Somebody linked me to it. I'm like, oh, wow. And I found it very interesting. I took a completely different takeaway from the whole Breitbart Gamergate thing down here, that he said, you know, you can activate that army. It doesn't actually say that they did. And from what I saw, they actually didn't. That people's politics, and even the trolls that tried to get people, those third-party trolls that everybody involved said, yeah, they were the one causing all the problem, and the third-party trolls wrote a blog post, said, yeah, we caused all the problems, and the mainstream media still didn't pick up on it. I expect no more at this point. I've seen this happen too many times. But what the trolls actually discovered is, no matter what they did to people, no matter how awful they were to people on the internet, no matter how much they tortured both sides, people's core ethical beliefs did not change. So if somebody thought doxing was wrong, they didn't just start doxing. They didn't engage in moral relativity. They didn't slip. They didn't become less good people because they themselves were harmed. And so people's view of the world, people's political affiliations didn't change very radically. What it did do was disengage people from these so-called social justice systems that before this some people might have been much less skeptical of. Now, that isn't because of anything Breitbart did. And that was the reaction from the people that they previously felt more inclined to be supportive of. But that doesn't mean that people who participated in Gamergate suddenly stopped caring about certain issues. They stopped trusting the established people claiming to advocate for those issues. And that's a very, very important distinction. And it seems like there's this fresh wave of people getting very, very upset, and it is upset, it's not angry, it's upset, that gamers are just this punching bag in the news again, that Gamergate is once again being misreported, that they're not talking to both sides, they're getting these very cherry-picked quotes from this one particular faction that is more directly connected to the media. And I think all of those complaints are true. They're stirring up old ghosts to connect it to Trump. And doesn't Trump have anything more realistic that's a bit more pressing? Trying to blame a bunch of gamers for the election of Donald Trump is like trying to blame egg whites for lemon meringue pie. I mean, yeah, maybe there's part of that. For people who don't know, egg whites are used to make the meringue. Sorry, it was a metaphor I just came up with. But, you know, you need a lot of other factors like sugar and crust and lemons and more lemons. You know, you can't just make a lemon meringue pie with egg whites. Like, it's ridiculous that, what are we, like 6 months in? People are still trying to relitigate this last election because they can't handle that elections are really crazy, dynamic beasts. It's like the game Shadow of Colossus, you know, okay, everything's really even kill when you're on the ground. The minute you start climbing that Colossus, it's like blah, and you just gotta hang on, and then it sort of sends on and you climb some more, blah, you know, flying all over the place, and then you finally get to the top, and you have to do the stabby in the place, and if you get that wrong, it knocks you right off. And so what kind of happened was that Hillary Clinton was up there ready to do the stabby, and then boom, James Comey just knocked her right off. But it was always precarious, right? No one has the election locked. The Republicans are not still relitigating how internal polling had Mitt Romney winning on election night. Barack Obama's people thought they were going to lose, and Obama won. Elections are funny things. And instead of just saying that, okay, we got to run a better campaign with a better message next time, they're still hand-wringing over this crap. And I wouldn't give a shit about that, except gamers are getting dragged down into the muck. So I decided to make this video just so somebody can hear somebody who was there and who has something of a forum say, look, guys, I know this is not you. I know this picture that is being painted is not you. I know you. I've talked to you. You're awesome. My exchanges with you have been about the games you like and stuff that's coming out and recommendations and tips and, you know, stuff like that. My electrical wire management in RimWorld, you know, that are the exchanges that I have had with you. Even people who totally busted my balls during Gamergate. And it's all I can do. But at least it's something to say that we all got played to an extent. Gamergate became this huge thing. Even at the time, people, and I think more so at the time, people said this is just one of those weird perfect storms where if any one component hadn't have been there, the thing wouldn't have blown the way it was. And we have this very oversimplified version of it in retrospect that, oh, this messy breakup that in a post online spiraled into this shitstorm, and there were things that happened after that were equally, if not more important to how mental it eventually got, because people have a hard time understanding how do you get widespread industry collusion from, you know, from a breakup and a couple of game journalists or one game journalist being involved. And that's not how it happened. There were, you know, I believe it was like August 26th, something like, I can't remember if it was the 26th or the 28th, because I remember I was talking to somebody about it, and just as they were like, do you want me to cover this? Oh, Zoe's asked for privacy, and then boom, 2 days later, all these articles. And I remember I was pretty damn mad at the time that it was like, privacy, huh? But I guess I dodged a bullet, because otherwise I probably would have been lumped in, even though the content of my article would have been somewhat different, because I would have done my homework. and there's a lot of issues that sort of spiral around this, but it was the appearance of that many articles so close together that, and it was on a very specific thing. Like, it seemed oddly specific at the time, and people got concerned that there was some kind of fix, that there was some sort of echo chamber or collusion within the games industry that was creating a naturally biased coverage. Obviously, media bias and things like that are not just restricted to video games. It is a serious problem in the age of, you know, Fox News is the right-wing channel, and then MSNBC is the channel of the resistance, and then CNN is, I don't know what that channel's become. It's Anderson Cooper saying that Jeffrey Lord would defend Trump for taking a dump on the desk, and instead of recognizing that's great TV, Anderson Cooper then apologizes for it. I mean, it's like, when Jake Tapper's an asshole, he never apologizes. So why do they do that with Anderson Cooper? I don't get it. It was a great moment. But they just become sort of a circus, fighting over internet memes and nonsense like that. But it gamers have grounds to be concerned. Everybody has grounds to be concerned, and I it's funny, people are floating around this article by Kathy Young, who that I was quoted at the time, where I actually said that, rightly handled, Gamergate can actually be a force for positive change, as opposed to, even though it's in the short term pretty unpleasant. And I'm like, wow, I was really smart back then, but it didn't do any good, because strangely people were just like, nobody is standing up for us, even though it's like, but what they mean is nobody in the mainstream media. And the problem is the people in the mainstream media don't care. And they're being pestered by friends of friends and friends who care very much. And so they're like, all right, fine. We'll do one little segment in the afternoon at some point. And of course, that just blows up because people find it. And then they're like, we want our turn. And then the person who didn't care very much to begin with goes, nope, I'm done. Not worth it. And that's actually what's going on. But that happens so often that it does seem like there's a fix on the line somewhere, because there kind of is, because it's who has friends in those places. And of course, what happened is the anti-Gamergate side kept tabs with their champions in the news. Gamergate rejected Breitbart to the point that Kotaku in Action, which is the remaining Gamergate subreddit, has Breitbart kind of like limited. Like, you have to get special approval to post a Breitbart link, because they determined that it was garbage enough to determine that. And so because they were ethical and they did the right thing, they're somewhat losing the news war. And then unfortunately, the only sites that will run even remotely pro Gamergate coverage, I won't even say pro Gamergate, just a more nuanced approach to it, are places like the Daily Caller or Heat Street, which the Daily Caller is definitely right wing. I can't figure out what Heat Street is. So, they are ostensibly right wing services, and so people see everything through this right wing, left wing lens. And that's not fair, because you've got a bunch of people who just want to make sure that what they read and what they watch about video games, the information they collect to inform their purchases on relatively expensive products, they just want to know that's high quality information. And they want to know that the people who are making games are doing it out of a legitimate love for games and not some sort of social or political agenda. And they want to know that the people who are making the games and writing the games and distributing the games and marketing the games and publishing the games appreciate their consumer base. And I think that is a totally fair thing to want. Now, some of the people that want that have some politics that I don't agree with. I think that is separate from their concerns. Now, some of them, yes, some of them are outright misogynist. Some people in every group are outright misogynist, and they may not want women in games. Nope, no way, no how. I don't think they're going to stop playing video games because there's a female character in Call of Duty. That's not what drove it for the most part. The confusion was that people on the internet say whatever thing they think is the most vicious line of attack. You guys know I don't agree with it, but I know it's so. And so the easiest thing to hit some of these people with were gendered slurs. But you see with guys, it's they call them fat, or they go after one thing or another or whatever. They mock their nationality. They mock their appearance. If they're not a white guy, they get all the racial slurs. If they are a white guy, they get picked on for being a white guy. You can't win. Everybody takes shit in this septic tank. I got accused of being pro-censorship this week. I was like, huh? Pictures of my ass are all over the internet. If I was really concerned about controlling content, you think I wouldn't have cracked down on those already? No, it is what it is. That was me at the time. I'm not embarrassed by it. It's a fine ass. I just spend a lot of time sitting on it talking to you guys now instead of shaking that ass for the camera. But, people can find that, and in some quarters that hurts me. Not the quarters I especially care about anymore, but at one point it was like, meh. But here I am explaining why I'm not pro-censorship, when what it really should be is, no, you have to prove I am pro-censorship. You can't just go, she's pro-censorship, and have people go, okay, I listen and believe. What happened to trust but verify when the shoe's on the other foot? But these are things we have to discuss, and these are legitimate questions. And the articles got so ridiculous that one actually quoted someone who claimed that the Barack Obama White House promised to prosecute Gamergate. So, the executive branch of the government, and this is just one example of the foolishness that got published straight-faced. The executive branch of the government, not the Department of Justice, that actually prosecutes things. That's the Attorney General, the FBI, that kind of stuff. The executive branch of the White House that has no prosecution powers promised to prosecute a hashtag. Because you can't prosecute Gamergate. Gamergate was a free speech exercise as much as it was anything else. There were certain people committing not good things within that whole poop storm, mostly third-party trolls. So if the statement had said, the White House referred me to the FBI or the Department of Justice, more likely the FBI, and they said they were to investigate, which we know they did because there was that, Freedom of Information released FBI file on Gamergate, and what they concluded was that third-party trolls were primarily the bad actors. If the White House told me that I would refer them to the FBI for an investigation about Gamergate, that would seem plausible to me. The White House promise to prosecute Gamergate does not sound like something a government would say on various fronts. But instead of the article, okay, we'll run the quote, but here's a little fact check on how government actually works, they just print it as is. Which does technically not run afoul of journalistic ethics because the person actually said it. They quoted the quote accurately. But there's more to it than that in this day and age. The counterpoint to that, and you're supposed to show both sides, okay, they say they can do it, what are the facts? And you don't have to get a comment from the FBI that is not going to comment on any ongoing investigation. And you're probably not going to get a comment from DOJ. You're certainly not going to get a comment from the White House. But you can point out that grandfather says this is not possible. Prosecute. You keep using this word. I do not think it means what you think it means. If the Obama administration was promising before an investigation to prosecute a hashtag, what the hell was going on in that White House? Okay? These are things that just don't make any sense, but that ended up in one of these how Gamergate becomes terrorists or whatever videos. This is easy to break apart on its face, so why aren't they? And the thing that's scaring everybody is they think, why aren't they? Because they're coming for our games. They don't like gamers. We're an easy punching bag. That's really not it. And trust me, I've said this as someone who has tried to get the other side in the press. What it really is people just don't care that much. And that's not a bad thing, because that means we can go back to playing games and go about it and just mind our business and not worry about it, because they don't care enough to spend a whole ton of time on it. And does it feel fair in the short term? Does that mean that there should be lazy journalism or flat out mistakes? No, it's still wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, eventually the gaming industry will get its shit together, do proper business advocacy, and actually start turning the tide of this unfair stigma against gamers. Until that happens, you have me, and I'm going to keep talking on this YouTube channel and giving you guys the straight facts, but trust me, the world does not care about this. This is not like the Jack Thompson days. This is not like Tipper Gore going after rap music. this is a big collective meh. We really got bigger things to worry about right now. So hopefully that helps you feel a little bit better about this. Hopefully you can relax and not worry that everything's going to start up again. Some people are not telling the truth. I know that's hard to swallow. If the provably factually inaccurate statements continue, they will get caught and they will be discredited. I mean, look what happened with Milo Yiannopoulos, right? One comment on a podcast sunk him because he rose above a certain level of media awareness. So all of a sudden, the other side's operatives were paying attention. And then all of a sudden, wham, suddenly those statements mattered. That's what happens. So if you want them to fall, if you want them to be exposed, if you want them to, get theirs, for lack of a better term, best thing to do is let them keep talking. They will stick their foot in it eventually. Okay? Hard to do, I know, but trust me, it does work. I've been down this road a lot. Okay? Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Happy Wednesday.